Interesting. Oh hey, didn't see you there. I was busy doing, dear God, anything but playing a video game. You see, as a self-proclaimed gamer, I have to talk about video games, buy video games, make videos about video games, and only actually ever play about 4 or 5 of the same games every year. Well, that's all about to change. See, my virgin points have been at an all-time low recently, and I figured to get those numbers up, I might as well play through 7 games from my backlog. And to make this actually interesting, I'm gonna make this a challenge that I have to beat all of these games in a week. And also for some extra virgin bonus points, let's make them all indie games. So let's high jump, wall kick, backflip right into this challenge. Why did I say that?
Indie games, one of the few things that keep our society held together.
Those other few things being women with black hair and Snapple.
Indie games are my personal favorite kind of games because you never really know what you're gonna get into when you crack one open. Maybe you'll get the most addicting card game you've ever played, a chill fishing experience with friends, or a boomer shooter with a visual novel inside. So I'm gonna rip the band-aid off and play 7 indie games that I haven't already played before. And to try to make things sort of interesting, I'm gonna do all of this in a week, which means most of these games can be beat in one sitting. But without further ado, let's get into our first game with Firewatch, or for short, is the story of a dude who takes a job as a fire lookout in the middle of Wyoming. He does this for reasons you pick at the start of the game. You see, the thing Firewatch does best, in my opinion, is establish a connection between the character you're playing and the person actually playing the game. It does this extremely subtly and very well. You decide what actions Henry takes before and during the entire game, and those decisions don't really impact the overall story or world too much, but they affect Henry, and they give context to why he might pick a certain dialogue option or act a certain way in game. And this helps you get wrapped up into the plot much better because you don't realize it, but you have so much investment into this character. You start to feel like you are the character. It's worth restating, for every game on this list, I knew practically nothing going into them, apart from the time it would take me to complete them and maybe a few fun facts I'd picked up from friends or the occasional YouTube recommendation. And going in blind for Firewatch was 100% the right move. You know Fei Tang's pyramid? That reading graph that you never really paid attention to in middle school? Well, that's generally how most movies and books lay out their stories. Well, in Firewatch, you feel that shit.
And I gotta tell you, getting to feel a climax for the first time was not something I ever expected when starting this challenge.
All of these odd things start happening around you, and you don't really understand why. And all of these questions start piling up while you and Henry start getting anxious. Like at one point you get stung by a bee, right? And I was so wrapped up in the story, I thought the bee was somehow genetically altered to have a poisonous stinger that would make me hallucinate and pass out. But once you're able to piece everything together, you realize you were only ever missing one piece of the puzzle. And if I could describe Firewatch in just a single word, it would probably have to be human. I'm not a fan of realistic fiction. I've always kind of thought if you're gonna take time out of your day to watch a show or read a book about people that aren't real, then why wouldn't you go a step further and consume content about things that can't happen in real life? But Firewatch has shown me that those kinds of stories are interesting because they can happen to real people. And they can happen to people that aren't any different from you or me. The only small complaint I have about Firewatch is that there were a few bugs in some places that kind of reminded me I was playing a video game, but they really didn't matter all too much since I was sucked right back into the experience 5 minutes later. And that's pretty much all I can say without spoiling the game. But needless to say, this was an extremely strong start to my challenge. I started Firewatch at about 11:45 p.m. on Monday and ended it about 4 hours later. You know that feeling you get when you just watched like a really good movie or just ate like a really good meal? That's the feeling I had when the credits were rolling on Firewatch.
This is honestly the best game I've ever played set in Wyoming. And no, I haven't played The Last of Us. But speaking of settings, up next on our list is a game set in hell.
Sheepy Short Adventure is a free video game, And I want to get that out of the way first because that's the main reason most people have played this game. I'm not going to sit here and say that people wouldn't be talking about this game if the game wasn't free, because I'm not some omnipotent god, so I really don't know. But one good sign is that none of the negative reviews I saw said anything like that. In fact, let me get the only two problems that you might encounter with this game out of the way. Controller support and optimization. Optimization is an issue for many, but contrary to popular belief, I actually don't own the highest end gaming PC, but within the last month or two, I recently swapped out my old RTX 1060 for a 4060. And I am pretty confident that that old 1060 could have handled the game just fine. But I did ask my friend who owns a pretty cheap gaming laptop to give it a go, and he said he was averaging about 25 FPS, which yeah, that's pretty good grounds for criticism. There is a low graphics mode, but it doesn't really do anything. So I'm sorry, but if you have a lower end PC or laptop, you might not be able to run this game. Still though, you should at least give it a shot.
But you have to appreciate the irony of a free game poor people can't play.
And the other issue was the game not recognizing wireless controllers sometimes. Which,
This doesn't make any fucking sense.
Now, with that out of the way, Sheepy is genuinely a very well-made 2D platformer with a very good story and maybe some of the best pixel art animation I've ever seen. Seriously, look at how this dude chases you, jumps on the elevator, and looks around as it starts to collapse. This is the kind of stuff you get when people are passionate about what they're making. I really like the story, music, and level design as well. I especially like the things that interact with the soundtrack somehow, like these crystals that when you walk up to them will play different notes depending on where you are in the song. Or this piano, because you can jump on it and it makes noise. The general story / lore is that there were a bunch of humans trying to dig up some crystals that they found underground, and then something really bad happens. You don't see a single person alive for the entire game, and so it's a shock when you are finally able to leave the caverns and you realize you've been underneath one of the most densely populated cities in the world. Oh yeah, and you can do the Celeste thing where you hold down on the left stick and the character doesn't crouch, they squish, which is only a thing in good video games. I'm not gonna pretend it's the pinnacle of 2D platforming or storytelling or world building, but it doesn't need to be that to be worth your time. It is just a very good short adventure. And with a very small handful of people making this game, you kinda have to wonder how it's all free. After completing the game and throwing a few dollars their way on Ko-Fi, I did about 5 minutes of digging. And it turns out that the main developer is Suicide Sheep, like the music YouTube channel Suicide Sheep. And with views like these, I can very easily see this just being a passion project for them. So it makes sense why it's free. And I for one hope he stays passionate and continues making games, even if he does end up charging for them, because I want there to be more games out there in the world like this, and I think me and most of the other people that played Sheepy would be more than willing to pay for them. I started this game at 11:57 on Tuesday and had the credits rolling by 1:15 a.m. and I enjoyed every minute of it.
Honestly, I think Sheepy's short adventure should have been renamed to Goat, a great adventure. I don't remember putting that in the script. Whatever, just move on to the next game.
You know the whole I went into every game blind thing I told you about? Well, it played off the best for this game. But this was actually the game I went into the least blind. I watched a playthrough of this game like 6 years ago, but pretty much forgot everything about it until a friend brought up the game in conversation. But I couldn't remember anything about the game, so when it was repitched to me as a game that's like Undertale without the combat, I didn't think much of it and added it to this list. You play as Nico, adventuring through a decaying world that Nico randomly wakes up in one day. They're told they're the Messiah because they picked up a light bulb in the basement of the house they woke up in, and apparently, that light bulb is the literal sun.
Decaying world? Check. Protagonist only recently showing up? Check. Some characters being weird and cryptic? Check. Wow, guys, OneShot really is the Dark Souls of RPG Maker games.
From there, you explore 3 regions filled with oddball characters that all know that you're the Messiah, and they all try to help Nico in their own way. But everyone knows that the world is dying without the sun, and some characters even think even if the sun is returned, it won't stop the decay. It'll only slow it down. It is also worth mentioning that Nico is literally a child. Most sources put them at about 8 or 9, which means they're very optimistic about saving the world at first, but as the game goes on, they just kinda wanna go home. But even then, they still have a lot of childlike wonder, which shines brightest around the more beaten down characters. Nico brings up the spirits of everyone they're around, regardless of them being the Messiah. But unfortunately, that's all I can say without getting into spoilers. Also, I'm sorry if the footage for this section looks unappealing. Let's just say that is a very intentional choice. But if nothing else I've said makes you want to play this game, let me quickly mention 3 things. 1, I started this game at 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday and got done with it around 4:30 a.m. But I felt like I was only at the halfway mark. 2, I was left so dumbfounded by the first 10 minutes of OneShot, it made me realize I needed to start recording my live reaction to the rest of the game. I'm a pretty stubborn guy, so I usually don't change up my workflow for anything less than file corruption or constant audio problems. But this game made me realize that I should be recording my live reaction to every game I play from now on. So when I say OneShot made me change something fundamental about how I record these videos, I hope that means something. And 3, you only get 1 shot.
Now after OneShot, I can finally get some use out of this thing I bought at a garage sale months ago. It's the Hotline Miami detector. It uses pseudoscience and has this little bar fill up the more you play Hotline Miami games. And since the owner reset it and I've never played a Hotline Miami game, I can't wait to see this little bar go up. Why is it halfway full already?
Have you ever gotten whiplash while playing 2 games back to back that are so tonally different from each other? I don't know if there's an overlap in the people that played Hotline Miami and OneShot, but for those who have, imagine playing both of these games back to back, and you'll understand what I was going through. Hotline Miami is fast. Like R is the dedicated restart mission button fast. In Hotline Miami, you play as Jacket, the silent protagonist that keeps getting voice messages from the Hotline Miami to kill people that they don't like. After every mission, you unlock a new mask, and every mask has a different ability. Although I mainly stuck with the chicken mask because it just felt right. Again, the gameplay is fast. It feels like you're going downhill on a roller coaster called the Heavenly Descent, or something like that. But every level is broken up with Jacket going somewhere and talking to his stoner friend and getting another call, which is just enough downtime between levels. The game is hard but fair, and since respawning is done so fast, I can forgive the game for feeling like the only way to learn certain room layouts or enemy placements is by dying, because it's done in a fun way. And after each death, you learn a little bit more about the level, the enemy placements, what weapons you should use, and where exactly you should be using them. It's weird, in a game about being a psychopath killer, you would think that going in guns blazing would be the best way to go all the time, but I actually prefer taking people out the stealthier way at the beginning of most levels. I absolutely love the fact that gunshots will alert most of the people that are on the same floor as you, so cracking a few dudes over the head with a pool stick to not alert everyone in a 5-mile radius is an extremely smart move. Furthermore, the way enemies get knocked down with your fists, in my opinion, is an extremely great mechanic. It forces the player to decide in a split second if they want to take them out on the ground, which requires a long finisher, which while performing allows the player to get overrun, or wait for them to get back up so you can kill them quickly with the weapon that they just dropped, while also being able to deal with other enemies. While I can't describe how this game makes me feel because I'm already on enough lists, I really enjoy the soundtrack, and synthwave really helps solidify this game's aesthetic of being an insane dude in the 80s going on a killing spree. If you had a gun to my head and told me to criticize Hotline Miami, well, first I would just let the gun go off and then hit R on my keyboard. But after that, I would say sometimes when you shoot into a bunch of enemies in a small area, some of those people will just get back up after you thought they were dead. This happens because you can throw your guns to knock down enemies. And when you do a shotgun blast into a crowd of enemies, one enemy will die that was holding a gun, and then that gun will be launched into an enemy. Also, most enemies only take one bullet to die, but they can actually take a bullet to the shoulder and be completely fine. But one, you can be shot in the shoulder and be completely fine, and two, these two things happen so infrequently, and death is such a minor inconvenience that I barely noticed it during my playthrough. I started this game around 8:30 on Thursday and finished the game at 12 o'clock, and I felt like I just did unspeakable things. I highly recommend it.
And according to the Hotline Miami detector, the next game on our list is Hotline Miami 2.
Hotline Miami 2 is a sequel to SteamWorld Dig.
Duh. Why wouldn't it be?
You play as Dorothy, a character from the last game searching for Rusty, the protagonist of the last game. Now, I have actually played SteamWorld Dig 1 as a kid and recently replayed it. So going into the sequel, I had the original on my mind. And oh my god, this is what a sequel should be. Not in a cookie cutter, just hashed out for the sake of it kind of way, more like a more of the original but better kind of way. I actually think this is a really great step up from SteamWorld Dig, and this game introduces a lot of interesting new items, gadgets, and abilities to utilize. And because I replayed the original so recently, I was able to understand the significance of each item they introduced almost immediately. For example, you can only mine tiles that are to the up, down, left, and right of you, but with the sticky bomb launcher, you can launch a bomb that breaks tiles from a lot farther away. Instead of a steam jump, you get a grappling hook. Instead of a double jump, you get a jetpack. Can you see what I'm talking about? The upgrade system has been completely revamped. Now you can make your basic abilities more useful with money and give them different effects with cogs. And you can hot swap cogs in and out of upgrades if you just unlock something you really want to test out or use. The story is great too. The fact we're looking for the protagonist from the last game gives us a clear goal from the start, and we don't know his whereabouts until the end of the game. Like some games you can pretty easily figure out what's going on, but since you never actually see Rusty in game, you have no idea if he's dead, being controlled, gone evil, or anything really. You want to actually see what happened to him, and what does end up happening makes it all worth it. But do you know what isn't worth it? Most of the NPCs. There are a lot of NPCs in the main hub town, but none of them really do anything as far as I know. Like if an NPC doesn't sell you anything and you can't sell anything to them, there's literally no reason to talk to them. But other than that, I have to play more of these games, just for the aesthetic alone. I love the dingy steampunk art style they're going for with absolutely no regalia in sight. So yeah, this game is a vast improvement in all the right places on an already good game. Also, Rusty is described as being one tile tall, and I found that really funny for some reason.
At one tile. Yeah, he was one tile.
But this game presented a slight problem. I started playing it at 11:45 on Thursday, and I had to put it down at 4 in the morning. I then picked the game back up and was able to beat it at 12:45 a.m. on Saturday. I was now a full day behind.
Oh, but don't worry, because according to this thing, the next Hotline Miami game is here to save us.
Hotline Miami 3 is a part of the Spark the Electric Jester trilogy.
Yes, I'm sure this device is working right. And look, I'll even push this button here to prove it.
Warning, convergence imminent.
Huh. That's not the noise it usually makes.
Now it should be noted, for my 20-ish years of life on this earth, I've never in my life touched a Sonic game. And considering that all my friends that have played Sonic games are either depressed or in denial about being depressed, it's safe to say that until I make enough money to afford therapy, I'm gonna steer clear of them. I say all of this to emphasize my next point. I absolutely love this game, and it's not because I'm comparing it to other fast-moving platformers or I'm looking for something to fill the void Sonic games so often create. I love it for how you go fast, I love it for the music, I love it for how unapologetically stupid and awesome the story is. I love it for how you're able to use the currency you collect in-game in the shop. Like, what other 3D platformer does that? Seriously, the little gooblets that are scattered throughout each level, they actually do something here. The first level starts you off speeding down a highway in a car with absolutely no tutorial. The next, you're running so fast through a level, I was wondering why Spark even needed a car in the first place. And next, Spark is explaining to you how he created a magical hat, put it on, and it gave him superpowers. And Spark reveals the reason he's doing all of this is because an evil corporation took the internet offline, and he'd rather fight the entirety of that evil corporation instead of standing in the line at the bank to withdraw cash. This is the first 10 minutes.
Honestly, same. I would totally fight Amazon if they took my Bank of America app offline.
This set me up to experience an incredible game that throws literally everything and the kitchen sink at you. I'd say you're absolutely blazing through levels about 70% of the time. The other 30 is combat missions, pelican fights, and mech battles. And even though going fast is the highlight of the game, those missions are still very fun. And the only real negative thing I have to say about this game is how some of the backstory of some of the characters is explained through lengthy dialogue between levels. And oh my god, you could have slashed the word count of these in half and still had more than enough words to be able to say what needed to be said in these. I'm not saying the dialogue is bad, I'm saying there's way too much of it specifically here. But maybe it's a necessary evil, because this game actually contains one of my favorite lines of dialogue in any game I've ever played, and it's, "Of all the things you could think to do with all this power, suicide is the best you could think of? Spark!" So yeah, it's pretty good sometimes. But my game theory as to why the quality of the writing of this game is so all over the place is the fact that this developer is a huge Sonic fan. Hell, he even started out making Sonic fan games. And with that, I'm gonna go on a little tangent. Do you remember Dreams? That PS4 game where you can make your own games?
Huh. Well, that wasn't on my bingo card.
Well, there are a ton of 3D Sonic fan games in there, and if you sort by the best rated ones of all time, you have legitimately a fun way to spend an evening. But it makes me a little sad that these people often don't try to apply their game making skills to their own original ideas. Fortunately, Spark is proof that those ideas can pay off if you make something original. All this motherfucker did was look at the state of Sonic games in 2015 and said, I could do better, and then did for 7 years. It makes me very happy that a solo dev was able to accomplish all of this. But do you know what else makes me happy? Me being back on track. I started this game at 1:45 a.m. on Saturday and ended it at 8 o'clock in the morning.
What the fuck?
I had one game to go.
And for some reason, the Hotline Miami detector is going off the charts. Whoa! Okay, what the hell? Seriously, what the hell is up with this thing? Wait. Detector for if you are playing like the 6 games that when played in succession will send you to Limbo. Huh. Well, that must be what this device is really for. I mean, seriously, it's like made with a label maker and everything. And for some reason, Limbo has this like shitty green screen effect everywhere that just won't go away. And I'm allergic to shitty green screen effects, so I gotta get out of here fast. But thankfully, the last game on our list might have something to do with that.
Welp, I should have put this in the middle of the pack. Limbo, not Hotline Miami 4, is a 2D platformer where you play as a kid, presumably in limbo. He's just like me, For real, for real. This is probably a weird point in the video to acknowledge this, but whatever. Please don't assume that I like a game more or less based on the intro cinematic little edit thing that I do for it. I'm saying this now because I got no fucking idea what I'm gonna do for Limbo. This game has like no music. Anyway, the world is dark and ominous and doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It's just like me, for real, for real. If I had to guess, I would say that this game is about the personification of somebody's fears throughout their lifetime. Like first it's spiders, and then bullying, and then factory working, and finally talking to women, which in my opinion is the scariest thing of all. Oh, and also head lice is like sprinkled throughout that. But here's the thing about symbolism, class. No media is automatically good just because it can be interpreted in different ways, no matter how much your 7th grade reading teacher wants you to think otherwise. Let's take Celeste for example, since I already have the footage of it. Celeste is a very, very difficult game where you climb a mountain. The story is about Madeline, who is a girl who isn't a mountain climber trying to climb the mountain. The underlying symbolism of the entire game is self-acceptance. Underlying symbolism is essentially symbolism that can just be ignored or missed pretty easily. Other examples are Breaking Bad and Moby Dick, just to name some popular ones.
Huh. That wasn't on my bingo card either.
All the symbolism in these examples work because you could take all of it out of these examples and you would still have good media. If you want a really challenging game about climbing a mountain, or a really good show, or a really, really old dude going toe-to-toe with an animal the size of a bus, then that's all these examples need be. Unfortunately, the term overlying symbolism exists, which is symbolism that can't be ignored. This, in my opinion, is bad symbolism. See, that's the problem I have with games like Limbo. They feel like all symbolism all the time. But for that to work, I have to like the base media I'm engaging with. And I'm just not a fan of how Limbo is laid out. It makes a lot of sense that in development, this game was called Limbo: A Trial by Death, because most of the puzzles are only really able to be figured out after they've killed you 2 or 3 times. And this just isn't really a fun way of doing puzzles, at least not for me. Also, I don't really jive with the quote-unquote horror in this game. It's just kind of having you do a lot of gross things, like triggering traps with corpses or getting rid of carcasses with bear traps.
Yeah, sorry to break this to you, Limbo. The game, not the place. I just got done playing at most 3, but at least 1 Hotline Miami games. None of this holds a candle to seeing Jacket bash some dude's face in with a metal pipe over and over and over again.
So out of all of the games I played, this was my least favorite by a long shot. I think it's well designed in some spots, but badly in others. It could also be that it's simply just not my thing, which, hey, if you love these type of games, don't let me tell you any different. In all reality, my favorite thing Limbo did was make me want to play Inside, this developer's 2nd game. I want to see how they improved and why everyone won't shut the fuck up about these games. Which, hey, I've never played a game before that's left me so confused it made me want to play its successor. So hey, it at least gets brownie points there. I started this game at around 8 p.m. Sunday night and completed it at 10:40. And with that, my self-imposed challenge was complete. But I did not feel accomplished. Since I started this challenge at 11:45 p.m. on Monday, I had completed this challenge with over 24 hours to spare, and it just kinda left me feeling hollow.
Now, it may be because playing through Limbo didn't automatically teleport me out of here, but I think I just didn't really like the game. I don't know, 0 out of 10, it didn't absolve me of my sins. Anyway, I gotta work on getting the hell, pun intended, out of here. Maybe with the assistance of, like, a goat lady with a huge... Okay! Why do I keep saying these things? Ow! What the hell was that? Alright, I guess.
Pseudo Regalia is hands down the best 3D Metroidvania I've ever played, and it will probably be like that forever. This game was made by a single developer after they made it for a game jam. It got expanded into its own full release on Steam, and people have been loving it ever since. After witnessing my friend absolutely fall in love with this game, I decided to give it a shot at 4 in the morning after not being able to sleep for 5 hours. And I didn't put the game down until I beat it. Almost 7 hours later. This game is an extremely well-made Metroidvania, and it's all about walking into a room with your current movement abilities, looking at all the places you know you could get to, and then getting to the places you think you can't. At least that's how I played the game, but to me, this felt like the most fulfilling way. Even though I only spent like 7 hours with this game, I'm pretty sure I could not touch it for 50 years and still be able to perform high jump, wall kick, backflip perfectly from muscle memory. There is so much hidden movement tech. I went the entire game not realizing you can chain together the slide hop and the side hop in order to reach absolutely crazy heights. And something I also like about this game is it feels like the developer only added what they thought was necessary. For example, if you collected every single health upgrade piece, side note you need 3 to make a piece of heart, you would actually be left with 1 extra piece. Most devs would have either taken this piece out or added 2 more. But I actually really like the fact that there aren't enough to complete the circuit. Another example are these blue vines that are everywhere. They don't do anything, but they're laid out in places where you'd think you'd be able to unlock an ability that would let you climb up them or something. This makes the world feel more alive, like it would be here regardless of if you showed up or not. It also feels this way with some certain optional sections that don't really have a right way to solve them. Like, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to have the wall run ability for this area, but since I was able to reset all of my wall jumps just by hitting an object with my cross sword thing, I just went for it. And one thing I'm gonna briefly touch on is the sound design. More accurately, I just want to say I love the way the Dreambreaker sounds when you drop it. It just sounds so heavy. And the fact that this boss goat lady just swings around a 6-foot long metal cross she just found and pogos off of it to wall kick off of every conceivable surface is making me question a whole lot of things right now.
Oh, really? That's the thing that's on my bingo card.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. You're not from around here, and the only way to piece together what's going on is by talking to these little goat guys. They only ever have like 2 or 3-ish lines of dialogue, but even still, they all feel pretty different from one another. Some are scared of bubbles, some will see right through you, and others will kill again. Speaking of things feeling diverse, every single area in this game feels different from one another. So distinct, in fact, that you could show me any given room's layout and tell me the backing track of that room, and I would be able to point out exactly where you were on the map.
Huh. I guess it's actually working. I better wrap up my thoughts fast so I can get out of here.
For a game about fighting through a corrupted world that's been neglected and left to die by its ruler, the main word I think of when I think of Pseudo Regalia is pure. While I was watching the credits roll and thinking about what I just went through, I realized I felt okay again. Not hollow, not like I just had an adrenaline rush, just okay. And the few minor glitches I encountered only ever set me back a few minutes at most. And it turns out they were actually blessings in disguise, because it meant I got to play more Pseudo Regalia. Okay, can I please leave Limbo now? Seriously, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not even Catholic.
Oh, hey, I'm back. Well, there you go. I just played 6 indie games and then got sent to Limbo. Then I played Limbo in Limbo. Then I played a game so good that I both subconsciously foreshadowed it for the entire video, and being sentimental about it got me out of purgatory. So at least a 9 out of 10. But don't get me wrong, I loved pretty much every game on this list. For Firewatch and OneShot, it was their storytelling, the fast-paced gameplay of Hotline Miami 1 and 3, the exploration in Sheepy and Hotline Miami 2, the curiosity I have for Inside is directly from Limbo, and also the comfort I felt from Pseudo Regalia. That game did break me out of purgatory though, so I don't know, I might be a little biased. I hope you enjoyed, and I pretty much recommend every game on this list. And no matter what kind of person you are, I feel like there's at least one game here you'd absolutely fall in love with. But I am really starting to think there aren't 3 Hotline Miami games.